What do you regret finding out? My mum was 14 when she met my dad. He was 24. My mother died in a car accident when I was 3. I found out from a newspaper article years later that it was her fault. She wasn't paying attention and crossed the yellow line and ended both her life and that of the person in the other car. Same happened to me, although it wasn't my mum, it was my grandpa. He died in 1955 and neither my dad or I ever knew the circumstances. Found out from old newspaper articles that he was drinking and driving. Although it wasn't illegal then or looked down upon as much. I hate this feeling of disappointment and I wish my dad hasn't found out either. That my best friend took her own life. She told me she was moving and gave me all her stuff because she said she had a furnished room where she was going. I hadn't heard from her in a while and she never answered my texts, so I looked up her name to see if she had an accident. Nope, it was suicide. The kicker is she had talked me out of it back in 2014 and I wasn't able to be there for her. You cannot blame yourself because it seems that she knew how to keep her plans secret. You can live your life to the fullest and remember her and your good times. She is with you. Look for the little signs. She will be happy to see you smile. That my mother knew she had cancer a year before she told anyone, or rather, a year before she was diagnosed after I literally forced her to see a doctor for her then extremely distended stomach. I was under the impression that we told each other absolutely everything because up until that point, we did. I found out the truth a month after she died when I'd requested all of her cancer-related paperwork from her oncologist. That my younger sister has a high rank in a local BDSM club. About the dongfish in the Amazons. If it makes you feel better, there are no confirmed cases of it swimming into anyone's dong. My dad informed me when I got back from Iraq that I was the reason he and my mother got a divorce. I never really wanted to join the military anyways, and it fricked me up big time. They had financial troubles and my mom sent me care packages quite a lot. Apparently, that put them into bankruptcy, and if I hadn't joined it wouldn't have happened. I just wanted to get out of that house because it was like I didn't exist. Mom telling me on regular basis when depressed that she wishes she would fall asleep and never wake up. Don't tell a 6-year-old this. Dang. I didn't meet my dad until I was 15. It was in secret since my mother wanted nothing to do with him. Within the first 3 sentences exchanged, he felt the need to tell me that I was conceived on a beach in July during the last time they fricked. I was the product of going away frick in a relationship doomed before my conception. He followed it up with, "We were good at 2 things, me and your mom, fightin' and frickin'. Unfortunately we were fighting more than we were fricking, so it stopped being worth it." 10 years later and this is still how I get my family history. My ex is with a guy who is where I wanted to be in life 5 years ago. Delete Facebook dude. Found out my girlfriend told my parents I was extremely suicidal and they responded, "So? What do you want us to do about that?" and they never brought it up again. Few months after they kicked me out for textbook depression, I found out my mom cashed out my Uploot program that froze college tuition prices for me at cost of $19.91 pricing. My grandmother set up and put money in. She used the $25,000 in it to pay off IRS from problems she incurred due to drug addiction. I'm a pay baby. Ditto. It doesn't subtract from your worth. It's something that my parents regret, not telling my brother at an early age he's adopted. When I was about 14 my mom took me to a tattoo shop to get her nipples pierced. While the procedure was happening, she turned to me and said, "Your dad bites harder than that." I could have lived without that info. That my ex-wife fricked my best friend just after we separated and while I was drowned in depression. Finding out my father figure, mom's BF, is attracted to me, even more so since I gave birth. Yikes. That my father cheated on my mother on a regular basis. I discovered he even went in an orgy while with my mom, which is not a cool thing to learn when you're 15 and don't know if your mother knows or not. My brother's girlfriend's NSW Reddit account. It's supposed to be a couple's account, so you might guess the horrors I saw in there. I regret just finding out that my brother found out about my girlfriend's NSW account. That my former best friend was really only friends with me because I drove his drunk butt around, and because he wanted to get in my pants. About my mom fricking her cousin. Woke up in the middle of the night hearing her say his name. Ugh. Haunting. Dear God, I'm sorry. What the Mr. Hands video is. After we broke up, I found out my ex had been online looking for a sugar daddy only 3 months into our 12-month relationship. I thought the whole time she was genuine. Turns out most of the time she was lying to my face. She broke up with me and started fricking her sugar daddy she had found 2 months before she dumped me. That rapping for Jesus was faked. That my grandmother's fiancé is a convicted pedophile. She doesn't care and has moved in with him. He was a teacher at a middle school and abused and violently assaulted 3 handicapped children. Learning from my sister that my father told her that my mom's mom was not paralyzed from the waist down because she fell off a fence. It is that she was beaten so badly by the man she was seeing at the time. Crap, there are some nasty pieces of crap in this world. That my mother doesn't actually care for me but uses me as material to show off how much of a good mother she is and denies it by buttering me up to be more grateful about my life really hurt. Just how close my pilonidal cyst, a hole that forms where your tail was as a fetus, was to making contact with my spine. I had an open wound for a year because the first surgeon was a freaking joke and it ripped immediately and he told me to take sit baths to help it close up naturally. By the time 11 months later I got the second surgery it was apparently only millimeters from tunneling to my spine, which could have caused me infection or death. I wish I never knew how close it was. BC I am terrified it's still tunneling on the inside even though completely closed now on the outside. Pilonidal cysts are way more painful than anyone who hasn't had them could understand. Sorry you're going through this and they didn't get it right the first time. That I'm not very smart. I'm not dumb or dim, but I've really had to come to terms with the fact that not only am I not the smartest man in the room, I'm probably dang near the stupidest. What my sister and her boyfriend were doing in the bubble bath. I bet those sick fricks were holding hands. That I'm possibly inbred. My dad had a kid with his first cousin and the kid had Down syndrome and a hole in his heart. Sweet as can be and really good at video games. Apparently that was a little common on my dad's side so it's possible I'm slightly inbred. I always blamed my best friend's erratic behavior on mental health issues until one day I found her passed out on my toilet and realized that her behavior always got erratic after bathroom visits. Unfortunately, she may have mental health issues but an addiction to certain drugs was the reason for most of her behavior. What tinnitus is? Now I can't stop hearing it. The details of my parents' divorce. Thanks mum. Same boat. My mother used to rant all day about how awful my father was. Everything she told me was a lie. Just how disgusting of a human being I was and am. When I was a kid, I knew nothing. My mom is a single mother and she didn't take proper care of me. I took showers once a week or less. I was messy. I was ugly. It was bad all around. Other kids called me names, avoided me, bullied me. I never knew why. Once I grew up I realized just how bad it actually was. Today I am aware of 2 things, where my childhood went wrong and that in 10 years I'll realize all the wrong things I am today. Man, you shouldn't blame yourself for being like that as a kid. You literally rely on your parents for almost everything at that age and if they didn't teach you proper hygiene then that's what you learn to be normal hygiene. All you can do now you've learned proper hygiene is take care of yourself. How many cockroaches there are in Australia? The one that climbed my foot as I sat in the evening gaming freaked me out. Also be aware that bush cockroaches are pretty huge, and with the recent fires a lot have kind of migrated. My dad mentioning how tight my mother is. Thanks dad. She's got a nice rack too. I regret finding out that a priest I used to admire was a pedophile and has since been defrocked. Finding out my ex had slept with my uncle and 3 of my friends. Realizing I'm not all that okay with being a loner. It was easier when I didn't care that I had very few friends. As I get older the fact that I have so few friends is starting to bother me more and more. That my mom knew my stepfather was abusing me and did nothing. That my dad abused my sister. Mine was that my grandfather abused both my sisters and potentially my female cousins. I don't wish something like that on anyone. Hope you're doing okay. That my dad is not my biological dad. That might be a real benefit to you down the road medical history wise. When I was around 10 years old, I was sitting on the couch and my older sister came towards me with a knife and stabbed a hole in the cushion about a foot from my leg. She pulled the knife out and immediately told me not to tell dad. I was young and naive and my sister had kind of twisted sense of humor, so I really didn't know what to think. It definitely did some damage now that I look back on it. Years later my sister announced that she had planned to attack me with the knife, but chickened out at the last moment. At this point I had all but moved on from the incident, but this brought it all back and then some. My father never wanted me, or children at all, and actually told my mother that if she had me, he'd spend his life making both of us miserable. She was convinced that once he saw me, he'd change his mind. She was very, very wrong. My dad often says how much happier he would have been if he and my mother never had children. I feel your pain. Looking on my ex-GF's phone when we were on a trip to Ithaca, NY, I would take any physical pain I've had so far over that I felt when I saw the things on there. Totally gut-wrenching. I wanted to marry her. I'm just glad it happened before you married her. A Russian proverb. If the bride leaves for another man, it's unknown who got lucky. In this case, you got lucky. Good luck one with the next GF. That I was the butthole in my relationships. Turns out I've become the person I was afraid of becoming my entire life. My dad. A jealous dude with anger management issues who never sees his own faults. To be fair though, I've come a long way since my best friend straight up told me what I've become and that if I stayed that way she was going to stop being friends with me. I guess I don't regret finding out because it helped me get my crap together. However, the fact that you were the butthole and you were the reason some of your friends cut ties with you is a pretty hard pill to swallow, especially knowing that you'll never get to make it up to some of them because it's been years. Why should they care at this point? I feel you on this one, but I bet it's somehow satisfying to belong to the tiny population that self-reflects about the way they behave towards others and themselves. You have been visited by the Wealth Rat. Subscribe in 12 seconds and he will share his wealth with you. Thanks for watching. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.